Okay, so now on the journey of going through the Green Glyphs decks that are the set that are currently at the time of filming in Kickstarter, but if you're watching it back, this is the set of Green Glyphs that has a Lenormand deck, an Oracle deck, a Rune deck, and then a Tarot deck. And I will say that I was the least interested, as the best way to put it, in the tarot deck, simply because I really love. There's something fresh with the Oracle deck. I knew that I loved the Lenormand deck. It just is in the better card stock. The Rune deck, I was interested to see what he was going to do with it, and I am really interested in the dice, the metal dice for that one. So, there were other interests than the tarot deck because I love the Prismavisions and I love the Cosmovisions Oracle. And I love the Light Visions as well. So I don't know. This was like the one that was like, oh, that's cool, but it wasn't high on my, oh, I cannot wait to see that list. That has shifted a little bit for me, but we'll talk about that in a second here. So here's the box again. This again came, at least in the Kickstarter, as a box set, but then they can all be gotten individual, and they are the same way whether you've got this in the box set or you got this individually. So beautiful, as always, production value with James Eads decks. Green Glyphs Tarot includes 78 cards, a 120-page guidebook created by James R. Eads. This is an advanced copy, so could there have been shifts by the time you are looking at yours? Possibly. So that's always important to also note. So here we have it. Again, we've got the symbols. This is all about the glyphs or the symbols that are there. Inside this one, we see the world is infinite and yet incredibly small. It contains everything we know and all we have yet to know. May these cards reveal the universe unfolding all around you, and may these cards teach you all that must be unlearned in order to move through time with an open heart and a ready mind. So then you have the book, which we'll look at in a second, and you have the deck, which again is very similar to the back, except for it has symbols directly about the tarot, tarot symbols. But otherwise, these are meant to be able to intermingle them with the other decks. Now, this is one reason why I was a little iffy about this deck, because I have a personal pet peeve against human forms with weird heads. It's just one of those things. Now, the one I hate the most is animal heads. But since there has been something that came out about what this whole thing is about, because this is in the sword suit, I have now changed my feelings about that. And we'll talk about that in a minute. I always reserve the right to change my feelings on something. So we'll come back to that in a second. Actually, pretty quickly. The guidebook I did want to mention again. They're beautiful as per always. There is a welcome to tarot here. Green Glyphs Tarot was created with the intention of being a visually clean and easy to digest tarot deck. The guide is created with similar intention. In the following section, you will find the guide broken down by major and minor arcana as well as the 4 suits. Each card in the 78 card deck has its own page. So the purpose of this deck is to be clean, visually clean and easy to digest. So it talks about how you might go through learning tarot. It looks at the Fool to kind of work your way through that. It has an example of how to read 3 cards, adding a 4th card in, example of how to read it. Gives you the Celtic cross. I know people have a lot of hate with the Celtic cross, but it's a good, solid, large reading. Of course, he's already given them a small reading. I read primarily with the Celtic cross for 9.5 years. I didn't even know there was a different way to read. And I had many, many wonderful readings with it. Example of that, a week at a glance. Others, and then talks about how there are other spreads. So then it goes into the Fool's Tale, right? Explaining the Major Arcana as the Fool's Tale. And so what you get is very simple. You have the glyph. This is the Green Glyphs Tarot. So the glyph that goes with that particular card. We have a description. So let's grab the Fool here just so you can see an example. And my mouse has acted up and now I can't see. Okay, there we go. So here we have the Fool card. Standing on the precipice with the loyal dog by their side, the Fool looks upward with an open heart and an open mind. Like a blank slate, the Fool is unaware of the cruelty of the world. We have all been the Fool and will be the Fool again. If it weren't for the endings, we'd have nowhere to start. So we have some keywords: new start, excitement, potential opportunities, and some reversed keywords: feeling stuck, held back by fear, reevaluating goals, unable to see potential. And so that's what we have. It's not a deep dive, but it's enough to root you in the image of what we're seeing and also the base meaning of what this card is, which I think is great. I am not a huge, I don't need guidebooks that have pages on it. I think when they're done really well, it's wonderful to see, but it's not something I primarily look at, especially with tarot. So I have to say, I think this is plenty to dip you into the meanings, with the understanding that if you're going to dive into tarot, you're probably going to have other books like that. So the card itself, let's just look at this first card. We have the number 0, the Fool title, and then we have the glyph, which again, Green Glyphs, Lenormand Tarot. We have this very beautiful illustrative style simplicity that is the Green Glyphs look, and it's quite beautiful. And you even do have some tapping into what I assume are astrological. It looks like Aries. And I'm not sure what that 0, I think it's just the number. Let's look at the next one and see if we see that. No, it's not on all of them. So it's not like they all have astrological symbols there. But that's what we have there. And then it goes through. Now, this is where it gets, I'm going to talk about this. So let's talk about this for a minute before we go through a walkthrough. So we'll go through the majors, right? So that's the Fool's Journey, which is the majors, and we will walk through the majors. I'm going to pull back here so I'm not giving away as I find them. Now, this is an interesting one right here. So let me grab, here's the suit of wands. Oops. Here's the suit of wands. Here's the suit of cups. The cups are elephants and they are adorable. Now, we all come to expect something from James Eads with his minors, right? Because of how amazing the panoramic of the Prisma Visions is, we think, okay, what is he going to do this time? There's just no way we cannot have that expectation, right? So what he's done with the minors is about this, it's 4 stories. So here, I'm going to read this because I think it's important to understand these. The 4 tales or 4 meditations. The minor arcana of Green Glyphs is told through 4 different tales. Each suit takes us on a journey that enlightens us on the simple wonders of being human: patience, self-love, giving, acceptance, coexistence. These are all aspects of life that we spend years learning and unlearning. Much like the major arcana tells us the story of the cycle of life, these suits offer a glimpse into these simple lessons. The tale of how humans found magic is represented by the suit of wands. This tale explores ideas of inner strength, persistence, and above all, the desire to make the world a better place. The tale of how the elephants learned to carry water is represented by the suit of cups. This triumphant tale explores courage, love, community, and self-confidence. It's like a folk tale. How do the elephants learn to carry water? I love it. The tale of how the stars were made is represented by the suit of swords. This emotionally charged tale moves through difficult feelings of self-worth, grief, pain, and most importantly, coexistence. The tale of how the sea formed the land is represented by the suit of stones. This tale explores balance, gratitude, and the karmic release of giving more than you have. At the beginning of each suit section is a poem or meditation on the general lessons of the suit. The story then unfolds on each card's page. It is recommended to flip through the story with the cards of the suit laid out to get the full experience of the story. So on here we have the beginning, we have a poem that speaks to it, and then it goes through the story one by one, which we will do in a minute. But I just think that is so fantastic, because now we've got this overarching story and theme that we can see through each of them that goes into a condition. It's the moral of the story that we see again in fables and folk tales, which I just think is really fantastic. So we're going to obviously come back to those in a minute, but let's zoom in here and take a look at the Fool's story. And then we will move in let's move in as far as we can here and still have room to maneuver, because I don't always stay perfect. There we go. I think that's good. And let's go back to, do we have a poem at the beginning of the Fool's Tale? Nope, it just shows us that it is the story of the Fool. But this is kind of interesting. The story begins with the Fool, green and eager to set out on their new adventure. In the beginning, the Fool encounters 4 figures that manifest as different pillars of the mind and soul. Creativity in the magician, the subconscious of the high priestess, the feminine of the empress, and the masculine of the emperor. And then our spiritual connection with the high priest. So and this is very interesting, because if you have the Cosmovision's Oracle, you'll see where at the beginning of the Major Arcana, there are 5 powerful birds in that one, and they each usher us further and further into the in-between, the light space in between lives. And this kind of has that feeling where there are these 5 powerful figures that the Fool is first meeting and learning something. The Fool then encounters love, and as we all know, let's just go with this, right? That was a high priest, right? This is the spiritual connection. The Fool then encounters love, and as we all know, love changes the story. Love asks for hope and strength at times of solitude and deep reflection. Then fate comes into play and the wheel of life spins. The Fool learns that sometimes things are out of their control and we must surrender to the ebb and flow of the universe. It is in this moment that the balance of all things is maintained, and the Fool sheds what they no longer need to start a new beginning, this time with the knowledge of the previous adventure. So I love this, right? The Fool encounters love, and as we know, love changes all things, changes the story. Interesting. Let's see where it's going with this, right? Love asks for hope and strength and times of solitude and deep reflection. Then the wheel of life spins, and the Fool learns that sometimes things are out of their own control, and we must surrender to the ebb and flow of the universe. Then it talks about how the balance of all things, let's go back here. The balance of all things is maintained, right? With the Justice card. And then the Fool sheds what they no longer need, with death. The card that follows death deal with the internal aspects, our ability to maintain balance, our imperfections and vices, our shattered dreams, our hopes. It dives into our secrets and what we keep hidden and what must be revealed in the light of day. The Major Arcana ends, right, with the world, a symbol of the journey as a whole. And it is in the moment of final fulfillment that we become the Fool once again and it starts all over again. So that was just a rough kind of flip through there, following how he describes in the book the journey of the Fool, which is really quite beautiful. You will notice that the cards in the major arcana connect together to create a panorama. Oh, I wondered if it would. Okay, let's zoom back out. You know, we're playing with this together here. Let's zoom back out as far as we can, and I'll probably have to move my head out of the way, but let's just take a look here. So here, oh, yep. So here's those first 5, right, important figures that are met. Oh, the first 5 important figures, but look, the road to the Lover's card all connects together. The Chariot continues the road. I'm going to go down, but the Chariot continues the road here. So but I'm going to go down here. That way we can maybe see them. Here's the Chariot, which continues to Strength, which continues the road, and it's the hero's path and journey, right? First of all, we have these that we're meeting, and now starts this journey that they're going on. It turns into the bridge, which takes us to the water here in the Wheel of Fortune. Now we're in a kind of watery area here, and then look, death then sort of stops that particular cycle. Oh my goodness. See, I just love what he does with things. Then we have Temperance, and I'm going to have to move some things, but that's okay. We'll just keep looking. Temperance and the Devil. Really, let's move. Okay, let's do this. Let's move these up here. Because we looked at those. They're awesome. They're cool. All comes together. Then we see the path come forward here, going into the water, which is really awesome. Right? And then we come to death. Death kind of, these are internal things. Remember what we have to release, finding balance. We have the Devil that then shows up. We have the Tower, but look at how the hand of the Devil grabs the Tower. We have this coloration of the Tower moving into the energy of the Star, which of course blends into the more of the universe, right? Because then, so let's go over here so we can see it all. The Star moves into the Moon, which moves into the Sun, which moves into the Spark of Judgment, and then we have the World card. So I really love, again, it's simple. It's this beautiful illustrative style, but we still get those connections on the journey of the cards. Okay, so I know we've already looked through the cards, but let's do a flip through up close so that we can just see them one by one. Let me see if we can zoom this in a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so there we have the Fool, which we talked about. And here we have the meeting of the Magician. We can see that we have the glyph for each of the cards at the title. We can see the pentacles, the cups, the swords, the wands here. So again, the as above, so below. You have a very recognizable to the traditional Rider-Waite Smith that you would recognize, but it's just nice and clean and beautiful here. So there's the Magician. Here is the High Priestess. We have the pillars. I love the glyphs on the pillars here. We have her feet in the water. We have the moon. We have the book. We don't have the sort of moon crown, but we have the crown on her head. I love the day and the night in the background, which I think is just beautiful. And the reflection in the water is gorgeous. Here we have the Empress, very powerful. I often say that while I do love a lot of the depictions of the Empress in modern decks, I do feel like we've gone a lot away from the powerful energy of the Empress. And while we see the connection to the Earth, and especially when we compare it to the throne here of the king seated. But I really love that she looks powerful, right? She is floating above the her throne, because I always think about the empress as creating the world that she rule, you know, that she's ruling, but she's in the act of creating the world, where the emperor is ruling the world, right? It's different energies, and that's what this looks like. Like, she looks like she's in the moment of power of creation, and he is seated in the throne and then ruling. I also love the water that is carrying over from the empress, pulling those together. And I love how the stars are sort of as they are. And now we have this sort of matrixy, everything is in alignment kind of motion with the emperor, which is much more stable and rigid and structured. And so I quite like that difference there that you see between the stars, which is just gorgeous. So really beautiful and powerful in its simplicity, gives you powerful insights into the cards. Then we have the High Priest here, which is, again, we have some of that symbols that we would normally see represented here with the hand motion. But I like this sort of veiling of the face. And yes, we do have crosses here, but you could lean into that traditional Pope energy. But for me, this has, with the, you know, have you ever seen sort of the Norse, I want to say one of the Norse bands that reads out the runes, has often women with strings across their face, sort of a veiling of the face. So it gives me a shamanic vibe, along with more, you could tap into the more Judeo-Christian vibe if you wanted to as well. So that is with the High Priest. Here we have the Lovers. I like the Lovers because I feel like they're relatively neutral. You could lean into this in many different ways in terms of gender, but to me, this is what I would consider gender neutral in terms of that, which is great. It just kind of leaves it open, but we just see people that are connecting, and we can even see that with the glyph. Here we have the Chariot, which is interesting. That's my birth card. And it is sort of that energy of unstable energy, but being able to master it just fine and have confidence. You have to have confidence. I have gotten up on a unicycle. My cousin used to ride a unicycle. And it's scary to get up on a unicycle, because you just don't really have anything, especially this one, because their feet aren't even on the wheels, right? So there is a sense of confidence to get up on there. And there is that unstableness that we often see, that the Chariot, either with the horses that are pulling in different directions, or the ground, you know, they're up in the air or on the water instead of solid on the ground. That instability, but still confidence to move forward, I think works really well with the Chariot. Here we have the Strength with the elephant. I just think it's beautiful. And I love that the elephant, you know, connects in and is pulling, lending strength to that confidence, which I think is absolutely gorgeous. And then we have that Hermit, which is, you know, I mean, who doesn't love a Hermit card? And this one is beautiful. I love the almost Japanese watercolor strokings of the bridge. I love the autumn foliage that are in the tree. It's just so beautiful in its simplicity. The simplicity does not detract from the beauty of this particular card. Here we have the Wheel of Fortune entering into that turning energy in the water, but then also a change is certainly coming over the edge of this waterfall, which I think is gorgeous. And then look, oh no, did I get him wrong? I'm going to keep this out for a second, because it looks to me, so now we have Justice giving some clarity here and some balance. I see Justice more as clarity. We're getting some clarity by how? By grabbing hold of the branch of the tree, right? And hanging upside down and getting some insight here. There is this clear moment that says, you're going to fall over the falls, right? You can either just randomly fall over, or you can grab hold of the tree and get some more insights in seeing the situation from a different viewpoint. So that set of three is really cool, in sort of the three cards there. Absolutely love it. What's interesting, though, is that we then have the Hanged Man releasing the Fool's sack, right? The Fool has a sack that carries what he needs, but in this case, we're getting rid of them. We no longer need those, because the Magician and the High Priestess and the High Priest and the Emperor and the Empress has taught us that we have everything that we need within us, and so he's releasing that bag outward, and ready and getting ready for a shift and a change and a transformation. This is such a beautiful and subtle death card. You just have the body that is in repose, and the sun is literally behind him, and it's almost like that's the soul rising up. I just think this is a stunning death card, and it's so simple. You cannot get much more simple than this, but it is stunning, and it says everything that you need. Look at the glyph on that. Oh. So now we have the Temperance mixing of the alchemist who is creating the balance, of the by mixing the energies of the elements. So very clear mixing, two things that are coming in and making something a third color, which I love to see that there. We have the devil sneaking in with the temptations and the vices, trying to get you to give away your power. And some of that energy, if you give away your power, this isn't that somebody else always, this could be something else grabbing your tower and shaking it up. I love the roots coming out of the tower upside down. But it's also your giving away of power that could result in this as well. So we have the tower coming in. We have the beautiful movement of the star saying you don't stuck there. You can find your path forward, and start to move forward. So I like that movement feel of the star, because it's moving us away from the energy of the tower. We have the moon, all of the wonderful depths and secrets. There are dark sides of the moon. There are bright sides of the moon. It's gorgeous. And then the sun, so powerful, right? There's so little color here for a sun card, but it's just, it feels like the energy of the sun. And you kind of get that glyph of the sun that you get in astrology with the circle and the dot. The mountain there, this enduring happiness that comes when we do the work of mastering our own self. And then judgment. I love that the judgment, we've had angels in this deck, like with the Temperance card, but I love that judgment is just this moment of electrical surge of change that's going to occur. We're going to stop and assess, because a major change is about, a rebirth is about to happen. I just think that's a really cool judgment card. And then we're sort of settling into all things as they should be, all things in order in the universe for the World card. So I just love this. I think this is an absolutely beautiful, whoops, hello, I confused you for a moment there. I confused the cards. But I just think there's nothing that I would change about this. I think it's really beautifully done. The story is connecting together. Again, they're not in order, perfect order right now, but the story is connecting, but they're individually also very, very clear about the energy of the cards. So absolutely in love with the majors there. Okay, so let's go back now into the minors, but I want to see these also lined out. So we're going to do a little finagling here. And let's put our, or get to our wands here and see our poem for the wands. I will say again, with my glasses, this tiny text is very difficult. Even with my glasses, this is difficult for me to read, but it's worth the effort. I once dreamt there was a tree that bloomed with deep green flowers. And inside each flower was a human being, They were all unique in their own way, yet woven so intricately together as if the tree would die if a single flower fell to the ground. When I came across this tree in dreams, it speaks to me about the goodness in the world. It shows me how the wind feels in August, and how blue can seem more green when next to yellow, and how the light behind your eyes matches the light behind mine, and his and hers and yours and theirs. It shows me places that still pulse with magic, so untouched and unknown. Then a single flower falls from the tree. As it lands on my shoulder, I am shaken awake. Magic is awakened. So let's just see. I don't know. I have not done this, so we're doing this together. Here we have the wands. The ace stands alone. We have the two of wands, so let's go here. A traveler sets off on a new adventure, one wand in each hand guiding the way. The traveler is the first to guide this new magic from the spark that they hold inside. It's inspiring and alluring and begins to fill the traveler with hope for the future. Then the Three of Wands comes in. I love this portal looking Three of Wands. Oftentimes the Three of Wands just has somebody standing and waiting for their ship to come in. I actually like that we have to continue to feed it. So I love this. So with the Three of Wands, the three wands float in front of your vision and form the perfect balanced triangle. New magic surges growth. The three is the number of growth. From the heart of these wands and offers connection and new opportunities. Love that. The Four of Wands comes in, right? The traveler unites with another who has found hope in this new magic. This is a moment of celebration, right? So we've got this little journey here that ends with this moment of repose here. Swayed by the growing need for power, the orange cloaked figure decides to use magic for evil, comes in and shakes this up and says magic can be used in negative ways as well. And we see the color change here as well, right? Having faith that the blue cloaked figure would only use the magic of wands for good, the higher powers entrusted the traveler with the safekeeping of the wands. So now we have the Six of Wands. Passing the magic of the wands marks an important moment in history. So there is having a faith and giving that energy over here and saying, you know what, we're going to reconcile and harmonize this and say, you know what, I'm going to trust you in this, and gives that energy over. Now look at this Seven of Wands. We kind of start a new pattern here visually. With the Seven of Wands, after much deliberation, the traveler did something no one expected. It destroyed the remaining wands. It knew that the power would once again fall into the wrong hands, but also knew that true magic comes from within humans and not from the wand itself. And so he breaks the wand. And so the Eight comes in and solidifies this with a firm hand, holding the fractured wands outward and offering them to the higher powers. The new wands should be dispersed evenly across. It's not just one wand here or a couple wands. It's now being sent out to go out into the world because they've mastered it with the Eight, and it propels it forward. And then, oops, I've jumped here. Eight. Then we have the Nine of Wands, four broken wands. Right, from the broken wands, a new set of wands is forged. This time, these wands were not fused with external power, but instead with magic from within. Power can only be manifested through the new wands if used with good intentions. And then the Ten of Wands, the traveler sets out on their final journey to the peak of the mountain. And here at the top of the world, they toss the wands into the sky, conducting the lightning to charge the world with magic. So we have this journey that is taken to work to find magic, understand the magic is within and needs to be shared outward and put forward. And so we have this whole journey of magic here. And then that brings us to the quartz. Can we get we'll put the quartz up here. Here we have the Page of Wands. The first humans to use the new power of the wands channels the magic into a force of creation. Then we have a child straddling a rocking horse with a wand in one hand and a strange helmet covering their eyes. They expel magic in a passionate but chaotic outburst. So we have that chaotic outburst here. The Queen of Wands has turned the magic of wands, has tamed it, and dances in a light-filled space. It's perfectly in tune with the magic. And then the King of Wands has learned all there is to know about the power of the wands and has chosen to use this knowledge to lead people into a new life. So that's what we have with the wands here as the story part of the wands. But I still will go through a little bit closer up here and take a look at just the cards as individuals versus as the story that we have just looked at. I'm sorry, this is why I am a huge fan of James Eads, because I just love I think I said this in the sort of the unboxing of the whole set. But what I love about James Eads is that there is a powerful sense of play, playing with concepts, playing with his artistic style, playing with divination that is so powerful and really translates beautifully in everything that he does. And I think that's, to me, the power of his work. So we'll go through these relatively quickly, but just to see it individually as an ace, I think this is absolutely gorgeous. The 2 is generally sort of in a Rider-Waite-Smith is generally creating a path or a trajectory, and I like the look of this. He's literally using the wands to create a path forward here, the magic of the wands. So I think this is very recognizable. 2 is also an energy of coming together or pulling apart in terms of the number. Again, for me, this is a bit of a departure for the Rider-Waite-Smith, but you can look at this as sort of the energy of the wands coming together, and you're waiting for it to pull at things to you. For me, it's about that power of the 3 creating growth, and that works really beautifully. The 4 is coming together in celebration, having a pause. I actually like this end of the road because for right now, it's like stop where you're at, and it's stable wand energy here. Then the 5 comes in and shakes it up, right? There's competition, there's conflict in regards to the energy of the fire, but it doesn't always end in bad things, as we will see. It just means the energy is really shaking up, as a way that I read. The 6 comes in and we harmonize this by saying, hey, look, I'm just going to give this to you and know that you're going to be able to utilize this in some way. So we have the 6 harmonizing. The 7 comes in and says, you know what? I find my stability of the 4, but then from that, growth is allowed to occur. That's how I read the 7s, which is really beautiful in this image. The 8 of Wands is mastery and says, look, we're going to take all of these pieces now, and we've figured this out now. So now we're going to take this and do something with this 8. What are we going to do? We're going to forge something new. We're going to forge something even more powerful, because 9 is a dynamic number of powerful energy here. And once that is created, now the 10 is taking on the burden of taking it up onto the mountain to throw it out there and charge it up for everybody out in the world to use. I like this take on the 10 because I don't see 10s as weight, but it's a weight of power there. So I love that. And then we have the page, right? That pure energy of using that pure spark with I at first I was kind of like, oh, I don't know if I like a child energy here with the knight, but I like that understanding of movement and chaos that kind of comes there. So I can roll with that. I love the beauty of the symmetry of the queens coming in and just being in complete alignment and balance with the energy. And then the king's got all of it figured out and is so utilizing that energy to rule, which I think works well out as well. So that is the story of how we got magic in the world through the suit of wands. Okay, so now we have the story of the elephants, right? And this is the story of elephants carry water. The mystic sees the universe in a bowl of water and finds the brightest light in the darkest places. We put on shells as if we were warriors preparing for battle. We decorate our shells with stories that burn brighter than they ever did at their origin. The mind does this to offer hope for future stories that may tell better tales of better times. If you look closely, a bowl of water holds the history of the entire universe, and then a single drop changes it all. So here we have obviously the Ace of Cups. Let's just see how this goes as a story. Long ago, the first two elephants met at a glowing pool of water. Trunks entangled, they danced in the that's the ace. They danced in the midday sun in celebration of bliss of being alive. As night falls, the two elephants begin to realize their true vulnerability at this watering hole. So they scoop their half moon shaped vessels in their trunks and set off into the night, hoping to find a new home. Here we have the Three of Cups says, a safe home in a moment of synchronicity brings a little elephant to life. As he emerges from the crystal clear waterfalls, he follows in the footsteps of his mother. In this space, the little elephant and his parents live in harmony, one with each other. So cute. Aww. Here we have the Four of Cups. As a young elephant grows, so does his hunger. The first elephant set out to look for food, but after 2 nights and 2 days it did not return. So the second elephant left in search of the first, urging the young elephant to stay close to shelter, leaving him alone to fend for himself. This is an interesting Four of Cups, right? Because it's a 4 is a number of stability, stable emotions for me. Again, this is how I read, right? He's sitting in sort of waiting, so that would give you that sort of bit of patience that you might see, or boredom that you might see in the Rider-Waite-Smith. So that's an interesting take. Sorry. I've been sick. I'm trying very much to mute and pause before coughing, and so hopefully I catch that. Obviously, you can probably hear from my sinuses that I'm not feeling the greatest. So I hope you have patience with that. The Five of Cups, which is normally the loss, right? So they have the Four of Cups as abandonment, loneliness, feeling numb, and apathy, which kind of goes, again, with the Rider-Waite-Smith. They feel like this for me, they feel like this little guy is stable enough to maintain themselves, and so are able to go off and leave him for now. The Five of Cups, many days have passed and the young elephant begins to slump into depression, is sad with what he has lost, right? He's lost his parents at this point. Then we see that the Six of Cups comes in and the little elephant loses himself in a nostalgic memory of when they were all together and all things were happy and wonderful with his parents. The Seven comes in. And hungry and alone in the world, the third elephant scoops up his cups and fills them with water, mustering up the courage to embark on a long journey. He knows that he can persevere and find his family as long as he maintains positive. So clarity of purpose, making that don't follow after illusions, figure out where you want to go and move towards it. The Eight of Cups, the halfway through the journey, the little elephant encounters a violent storm. He finds shelter at the edge of a cave, wanting to go deeper but not feeling brave enough. He wonders if the cave swallowed his parents whole and once again begins to recede into the dark corners of his mind. I don't really read the Eight of Cups this way. For me, 8 is a number of mastery and a journey going inward. But this makes sense. We've got the cups filling with water and that going into a sleep space. So a shamanic journey of some sort is how I could read that card. Just thinking about it from how I would read the cards. But we're supposed to be doing story. I know I'm failing in that. Beautiful Nine of Cups here, right? The wish fulfillment. Works up the courage to finish his journey. He enters a dark cave and walks for hours. Rounding the corner, the elephant sees light bursting out of the cave. The little elephant is greeted by paradise, and other elephants are down here. And then, of course, the 10 of Cups comes in. He's no longer little anymore. He sees his reflection. It calls to him, the water does. And in this moment, the little elephant learns how to carry water and doesn't even need a cup because he's using his trunk. So we have the Page of Cups here as the little elephant at the beginning of his life. The Knight of Cups, we have a charming elephant armored in gold and full of confidence. Would this elephant and his alluring nature be enough to sway the little elephant into wanting a mate? We have the Queen of Cups here. I'm assuming maybe is the mother. She offers a bowl of cool water, that sort of nurturing energy. And then the King of Cups in all of his grown up, the little elephant all grown up, and in the seat of his own power. So how sweet is that? The story of how the elephants learned to not just carry water in their bowls, but that they can actually carry that water their own self and have no need of the cups. Love it, love it, love it. I guess I shouldn't be doing, but we're already committed to going through this twice. So let's just stay with that commitment, and I will just try to be a little quicker on the second. When have I ever been quick, right? If you're watching this, you know that already. Ace of Cups, beautiful. Two of Cups, again, works really beautiful as a Two of Cups. The Three of Cups is that growth and that moving forward and just the cups running over, which I love. I talked about the Four of Cups. I see the Four of Cups as stable internal power or emotions, and they feel he's stable enough to be able to manage on his own. The Five of Cups, that sense of loss and feeling alone. Again, you can see the red color in the fives that we saw with the wands as well. The Six of Cups, that nostalgic, that's as beautiful as a Six of Cups, remembering that the world can be beautiful and powerful even after loss. The Seven of Cups is going to set your course. Don't get distracted by illusions. Know where your course is. Set that course and move towards it. The Eight of Cups, again, I said how I would read this differently. The Eight of Cups for me is very much that energy of mastery and going on an internal journey, which that cave gives us. The repose for me also gives that more of an inward journey that the Eight of Cups for me represents, so it works really well. Beautiful Nine of Cups. Everything is that high dynamic energy of opening up into this view of all of this powerful cup energy and wish fulfillment. 10 of Cups no longer needs the cups, now just knows it's all in internal power. And then we have the young energy of the Page, the chivalrous energy of the armored elephant, the nurturing energy of the Queen of Cups, and the powerful utilizing its inner power to rule of the King. So that is our suit of cups. Now, when I first, swords are my favorite suit. And when I first saw this without having read anything, I was kind of like, okay, why does my sword suit have to have the weird people on it? I get them. I understand people love them and they're symbolic. But for me, it's just one of those things that I'm not a big fan of. It will stop me from getting decks often. But let's read this because I actually love what's happening here. So the poem here is the first star. You must be the first to disregard the moon, as if it were something lesser than the greatness of everything combined. As if the moon were not why you and I are you and I. As if the moon wasn't the only thing that could sway the sea. As if the moon was a burden, something you had to carry each night. To hate the moon, you must be the first. So here's the sun, all bright and bothered, burning and blinding too. But you love the sun with ferocious affection, as if it were the moon. You must be the first. So here we have the story of how did he say that? Let me go back here. I should have labeled it. Let's go here. The tale of how the stars were made is represented by the suit of sword. This emotionally charged tale moves through the difficult feelings of self-worth, grief, pain, and most importantly, coexistence. So the first star thought it was a bright idea to see the world from down here. As they broke through the atmosphere, they realized it was a terrible, terrible mistake, for stars were not meant to exist on the ground. The sun, burning and blinded by his own ego, shows off to the moon. He can impress her with a wave of his sword. If only the sun knew that the moon was already impressed just by the sun being the sun. The Three of Swords. The sun discovers the fallen star, impaled by his own swords. Heartbroken by his carelessness, the sun looks anywhere to place the blame. Grief has a way of masking the truth. It consumes anything it can to survive. And so the heartbroken sun dims his light and fills himself with anger. Days go by and the sun stays high in the sky. In this moment of respite, the sun blazes brighter than ever in a swirling mass of emotions. Afraid to come down and face the truth, the sun swallows the world in heat when the sun should have been resting instead. Here's that orange of the 5 that we saw as well in the other 2 suits. After many days, the sun comes down to confront the moon. He blames the moon for letting the star fall since it was under her watch of the night sky. The sun's misplaced anger fuels him to act on his impulsive intention. So that, shake up energy of the 5 of Swords and that sort of battle instead of the competition. In the 6 of Swords, in the moment of heated emotions, the sun takes an action that irrevocably shapes his existence. What has he done? How can the world exist without the moon? So there's been a fight. He's taken down the moon. The 6 of the Swords, in the 6 of Swords, this is interesting with the 6, and I'm going to have to work with this, but we'll come back to it. First, we'll stay with the story, Kelly. He's like, oh no, what have I done? There are consequences for what I have done here with the 6 of Swords. The 7 of Swords comes in. Trying to live with this hasty decision, the sun decides he can be both the sun and the moon. He would spend his days hanging high in the sky, lighting the land, and he would spend his nights softening the sky in hopes that it would bring about new stars. So now he's going to be both. The 8 of Swords, he's overwhelmed by this commitment, and he has realized what his actions have finally hit home, and now he feels like he's trapped, right? So he's being swallowed up in self-pity. The 9 of Swords comes along. Consumed by his own self-imprisonment, the sun lets in chaotic thoughts, anxieties, and fears flood his being. We see that dark orange again here. I mean, it's like a rusty red color. Anxieties and that nightmare existence, anxiety, depression, chaotic that we see with the Rider-Waite-Smith 9 of Swords, right? Then the sun begins to shut down. As he lays across the land, he admits defeat. In his collapse, he has a final epiphany. The world was meant for both the sun and the moon, and it was never the moon's fault that the star fell that night. He has a realization here. Excuse me. The moon, in all of her grace, gives hope to the sun as she peels him off the floor. The moon was never truly gone. She just needed to hear the sun realize he needed her as much as she needed him. Ashamed of his actions, the sun attempts to make up by creating the stars while the moon rests. He is stubborn and overworked, still unable to truly see the importance and beauty of collaboration. Night running off and doing what he needs to do. The Queen of Swords, aka the moon, well rested and clear of mind, charges through the bright sky, creating star after star with her magic. So that creative energy of the queen. And then the King of Swords, so now we have the moon doing what she's supposed to do, the king, which is the sun, doing what he's supposed to do. Reunited, the sun and the moon offer their own light to the stars in a way that neither could have done on their own because they're combined together. You can see them combined together here. The star then creates his brothers and sisters in the night sky, giving birth to the universe of stars we know today, and moves on. So there we have the story of the of how to learn to coexist, to deal with our own feelings and our own inadequacies and our own worries, that keeps us separated away from others when we do that, and instead coming together and figuring out how to work through those challenges and be stronger in connection with other people. So I do like this, right? Again, I like the story that's being told here. I think it's really beautiful. And it really leans into, for me, that energy of the challenges of the spades or playing card, which Waite took, right, for the swords, but in such a way that makes a lot of sense, I think is beautifully. Eads has sort of shifted that into a trajectory where you can see the path and the pattern. But let's look at these as individual cards to see how we can use these. The ace, an ace is an ace is an ace. We have this kind of falling energy or falling star energy, which is very powerful. We have the Two of Swords. We don't have our traditional Two of Swords, which I love, but I love the sun and the moon here. That combination of the two and the understanding that we need both of those things in unity. We have the sort of foreshadowing here that we need those two things in unity to create a path forward. So that works for me. Now, this is a typical Three of Swords for the Rider-Waite-Smith. I don't think anybody would have a problem with that. I see Three of Swords as, and three is a number of growth, right? So we have had this this occurrence happen, right? That has had difficult consequences here. I just have to take this and run with this as that understanding that we have experiences that we grow from. Good experiences, bad experience. It's a typical Three of Swords for me in terms of how to deal with the 3 and the 10 of Swords, which is normal for me with a Rider-Waite-Smith deck. That's no fault of the creators. They're making a Rider-Waite-Smith inspired deck, even though they've deviated and kind of done their own thing, and I can still work with that. I love this restful energy of the Four of Swords. This looks like the sun in a state of stepping back. It's literally its furthest away in the winter time. And I think that that's really gorgeous for the Four of Swords. Five of Swords is, again, pretty typical. It's a shakeup of a way of thinking that can get us in trouble and cause conflict. The Six of Swords, I think, is going to be the most difficult, even for Rider-Waite-Smith, right? Because there's no movement here. The Six is coming in and harmonizing things. And for even Rider-Waite-Smith, where you normally see the energy of the Six of Swords taking you away from the conflict, I think you could see here that the conflict is over, right? And now having to find your movement and your path away. It's almost like we're seeing the energy between the 5 and the 6, where there has been the battle's done, which we see in the Six of Swords. The battle is over, and we can see that here. And now you have to figure out how to reconcile this. And so it's almost like a pre-Six of Swords. It's like right at the beginning where you're needing to find that reconciliation. But I think you can still get there. You just have to be aware of the story that's being told. Then we have the Seven of Swords, which is oftentimes somebody stealing swords, right? Something has happened here. All of these swords are on the ground. A battle has occurred. We don't have the full picture. So this works fine for me, as I have to read the Seven of Swords anyways, which is just we have to figure out and go a little bit deeper and figure out the whole story here. That's how I read the Seven of Swords, and that works. The Eight of Swords is a pretty typical Eight of Swords to read. They're trapped by their own mind at this point. And the 9 is fine for me. Typically, this is the nightmare card in anxiety and stress of the Rider-Waite-Smith. It works for that. But for me, it's just high dynamic energy. Our brains are going, la, 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 la. There's so much going on in our brain, right? And that works as well for me. So I can definitely work with that. This is a pretty typical 10 of Swords for Rider-Waite-Smith. I like that the sun is in the back, just like we saw with the Death card. So understanding that there is a new awareness that is going to come up. from that. But, you know, if you're a Rider-Waite-Smith, this is easy to read. If you're like me, I'm used to working with it, and I like the light of the moon and the rising of the sun that's coming up to me. There's some understandings that have come, so I can work with it even if it's not my favorite, right? That's, again, has nothing to do with the creator of the deck. It's a Rider-Waite-Smith based deck with some deviations, and that is depicted very well for that. So this is just me having to reconcile how I read, right? The page is interesting because you can take this energy of the helpful energy. You're learning to use what you know to help others. I kind of like that page energy there. The knight, not a lot of movement, but the movement can be seen in the swords above, right? And that energy of having to focus your mind and your thought, pulling it down in so that you can then move outward. There. I love this Queen of Swords and this King of Swords. I really like this, right? We have that movement of creation of the queens, and the kings, he looks like he's utilizing the power of his mind to bring about that unity. So I really like this Queen and King of Swords. So I have to say that the story definitely makes me, because this is a story, this is the sun and the moon, right? In the story of what's going on in the stars and the sun and the moon, these aren't actually people. So I quite like that. That helps me with the heads, the funky heads things. So that is the suit of swords. Okay, what you're going to see next, I filmed this in a different way so that I could have my head and the hands, because I just thought that would be a nice way to do it, that I do sometimes. But I reverted when I went to do the cups. I just hit on my actual camcorder and reverted to the normal style, which means you see my mouse and not see my head. I'm not going to redo it because I really enjoyed walking it through it. So you just, have some grace for the tech problems, but it's all there. It's just, not perfect, but life goes on. So I just wanted to give you the heads up on what you're about to see. But you'll still get to walk through there. And then we'll come back and walk through the cards. And in what must probably by now feel like a never-ending story, we have the beautiful, now this I have seen, because the Kickstarter's been up for a little bit, people why is there all this water in the suit of earth? So I'm excited to see this. This is called The Sea Gives to the Land. See the water, feel the wind, touch the earth, it's all a gift. The whole world and you in it, miraculous, brilliant, shining earth. You didn't pay for the thumping heart in your chest. It was given to you. It may be broken, weak, or shattered, but it is yours. You didn't barter for those beautiful eyes. You didn't plead for those hands to work. Your life is a gift. There's nothing you could do to deserve the world, and yet here you are, with an open heart, open eyes, and open hands, ready to accept the sea with whatever it may give and with whatever it may take. So this becomes a creation story, right? It's a creation of myth. And remember that the earth is, how much percent of the earth is water? It's like a humongous percent of the earth is water. So I actually really like that, right? Earth doesn't, the element of earth, especially if you look, and don't quote me on this, I'm not a Thoth expert, but I believe in the Thoth, the earth, the suit of earth, especially the position of the princesses as earth energy, they encapsulate all of the elements, because the earth doesn't just contain one, it contains all of them. So I quite like this, actually. I know that this isn't everybody's favorite, because you see this and you think, oh, that must be the Ace of Water, right? So I get why that might be, but I think as a creation myth and understanding that the earth contains all of the elements might, maybe, I hope, change your mind. The first moment of creation, the sea expels a single stone, inscribed with the rune Berkana, a symbol for birth. I love this. I love that so much. So the stone is being born from the water. As the sea continues to create more stones, it must also learn balance. If it were to create too many stones, the sea would be swallowed by the land, not enough, and the sea would surely slip away. Would the sea cease to exist if there were no beginning and no end, but just an endless pool? So this is about balance here. Look at this beautiful 3 of stones. See, I love this. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. I love this. As the ocean floor, at the ocean floor, which is Earth, right? We begin to see the fruit of the sea's labor, life. Coral and sea creatures start to thrive in harmony with the control of under the control of the sea. It nourishes these creatures, and in return they give to the sea. So we see land and life being in conjunction with water, creating life here, which is beautiful. The sea begins to restrict its creation of stones. It worries it is overindulged in the act, and as a result is losing control of itself. At the heart of this preservation is greed. Now, again, this is Rider-Waite-Smith, where 4s are that sort of greediness. A 4 of cups is boredom and apathy, and the 4 of stones is greediness. I don't see it that way. It's stabilizing, and this looks like stabilizing energy. I should talk about that when I go individually. I know, I'm sorry. But this is that sense of maybe it has restricted itself in its greediness. So we're going to keep with the story, and then I'll talk about how I would read that. I like that card either way. At the bottom of the sea, 5 stones sit in a deep fault line. These sunken stones at rock bottom feel the pressure of the sea from above. They attempt to hold themselves together as an earthquake. 5 is a shake-up number. I love an earthquake here as that. They attempt to hold themselves together as an earthquake rips the seabed apart. No longer able to hold the weight of the sea, they crack under the pressure. So I love this, A, as a story, but also as a shakeup of earth energy. I think that looks pretty cool. 6 of stones is beautiful. I turned the page too soon. The sea, realizing that it cannot hold back what was never its to keep, expels all the stones at rock bottom. In this moment of freedom, the stones begin to form the land, the outer land, not the underland, and giving the sea the structure that it never had. In the 7 of stones, 7 stones decorate the tide pools at the shore. Life emerges from the shadows of these stones. I love this. From 4, from the stability that was created, right? Plus 3 for me, life comes. This is beautiful for, again, the way that I read. Hermit crabs and sea urchins thrive in this new environment. It is the moment that the sea relinquishes its urge to withhold and is given even more in return. Over time, the stones grow into larger bodies of land. This land begins to develop life of its own. Waterfalls cascade down lush forests and feed the sea. So now we have islands that are taking place. Doesn't this feel like, like a Polynesian style creation story? That's kind of what it feels like to me. I am not Polynesian, unfortunately, but that's what it feels like. I'm getting Moana vibes. 9 of stones. In the shallow waters, a hermit crab scales a small mound of stones. The crab is confident and independent, now capable of finding a home and providing itself a life of abundance with the 9 of stones. And then with the 10 of stones, I love this perfect balanced earth. Look at the little faces. The hermit crabs have made the seashore into their new home. They thrive here where the sea and the land are in perfect balance. To show their appreciation, they move the stones around to form towers as a sign of gratitude for all the sea has given. You have this perfect balance of energy in the 10 of swords, stones, and all is as it should be. I love this. Like, I absolutely love this creation myth and the understanding of the synergy that is at the heart of the earth, right? We're not talking about earth as just this dirt, right? Dirt level. It's the earth and the creation of the earth and the synergy of all of these energies together, which is absolutely beautiful. Sorry, I know the story keeps going with the pages. Above the sea, an old stone mound has eroded into a plateau. At the top of the plateau, a figure reaches their hands towards the sky. Grateful for newfound perspective, learning to use the energy of the earth. Here's the knight. I actually quite like him, even though he is a interesting headed creature, but it looks like a tree, like an ant or something. Beneath the sea, a coral creature takes hold of an old stone inscribed with unrecognizable glyph, perhaps eroded from years of being underwater. So he's taking that and moving one foot in front of the other. Love it. Look at the Queen of Stones. She is completely in sync with her environment. The Hermit Queen hides behind a kelp forest, clutching a pearl in her claws. She is a creature of comforts and take pleasure knowing that all she needs is within claws' reach. She does not yearn for more, but instead is blissfully content to have such a giving home. She's at one with her environment, the ground, the water, the life that grows, the pearl, all of it. And I love this King of Earth so much. Look at him. Now, does this not, somebody who else who likes Moana, does this not give you like Moana vibes? You know, when she stands up, the beautiful goddess of the earth is restored, and then she lays down and she becomes the mountain of the island. It just, I love this. I think it's absolutely beautiful, and I do think it really speaks to the earth, not earth as in dirt, but the earth, which I think is amazing for the suit of earth. I adore this so much. And I know I've already, once again, you know, spent a lot of time. So we will, okay, I gotta not do this wrong. Let's back it up and walk through them quickly. I say quickly, but who knows? I'm not timing this. Okay, so now we're back to the right view, but that's okay, you know. All things do not have to be perfect all the time. Here, we're just going to walk through them again. Again, I love this as these, yes, if you're scanning and you don't look close, you might think that's the Ace of Water, but I love the birth with Berkana here and the birth of the stone here. Two of Stones, finding balance. I think that works fine. Three of Stones, I love. Three is about growth, and you can see all of this life that is growing on the land under the sea, right? I love that. Again, Four of Stones for me is about stability. We have this stable shoreline, we have the water, we have the earth. All things are sort of stable here. We've got a stabilized land, excuse me, land edge, which I think works really well. I love this Five of Stones, this shake-up energy that comes in with the idea of the earth cracking. I think works really beautiful. Balance, that water rushes in, the stones are where they need to be. We have this energy of harmony. It just looks harmonious, in my opinion, here. Here we have the seven. Normally with the Seven of Stones, for me, it's that seven is always that number of 4 plus 3. So it's that finding that solid ground. There has become this pattern and this solidity, and this little hermit crab having their home. This sense of finding something to be stand secure and still, and this creates an opportunity for growth. This kind of feels a little more pippish to me, but that works really well for me as well. I love this Eight of Stones, this mastery. They have become islands. They are self-sufficient in the waterfalls. Like, it's just absolutely gorgeous. I love that card. The Nine of Stones, again, creating that space for yourself where your home is and where everything that you need is with you. Perfect. And 10 of Stones is everything is solid, is in balance. It is beautiful. I even like these wavy lines. There isn't so much a legacy feel except for all of these little people. I like all the little faces. Look at the little face there. So I like visually it has that culmination for the stacking. You don't so much have the legacy effect here, but but that balance gets to maintain and be brought forward. But I do like the moving lines kind of taking the path and moving that legacy forward. I put these in the wrong order apparently, but I love this King of Stones so much. I can't even tell you. And she's a little creepy, but I like her. She is in complete attunement with her environment. A Knight of Swords. Again, I actually like him because he kind of reminds me of one foot in front of the other, the Abominable Snowman, even though it's a coral monster. And I really love this page, that just energy of youth and that willing to start to play and learn their environment, I think is just gorgeous. I really love that a lot. So that is the quartz. So I'm a big fan. Let's zoom out here without messing things up again. I'm actually a big fan. Again, this wasn't like high on my list of the things that I was excited about, but having all of those stories. Now, again, I don't know if I've said this yet. I don't think so. I might have. This is beautiful cardstock, okay? It shuffles overhand really gorgeous. But once you get to playing card size stock, truthfully, I'm sorry because people don't agree with me. I'm not really sorry you don't agree with me. You don't have to agree with me. But once you're going down into playing card size, you really need playing card stock just to riffle shuffle. And I am understanding that this world of divination is not a world of riffle shufflers, right? So I think that most people, probably 90% of people, this is absolute perfect cardstock. It overhand shuffles like a dream. If you are a mixer and want to put it on the table, mix it, you can. But if you are a riffle shuffler, 78 cards of this cardstock is just hard. You're not going to get a riffle. So you're going to have to, they riffle beautifully, again, if you don't have 78 cards. But again, I don't judge. People don't have to make decks that riffle shuffle, right? Because most of the world of divination doesn't riffle shuffle. I would guess. I'll have to do a poll, but most people don't riffle shuffle, I would guess, from the number of, messages I've gotten about it being disrespectful. So this is beautiful cardstock, but it's definitely harder for if you're a riffle shuffler. Okay. So let's just lay these out just so we can see them in my normal, what would be my version of the Celtic cross, because that's literally what I did, take sort of the positions I wanted to make sure that I had and have it fit onto a reading table. And that's how I made this particular reading spread. But the color palette in the green glyphs is gorgeous, right? It's a simple palette where you have these rusty reds, yellows, greens, and this beautiful blues that you have. And of course there's variations there, but you have this sort of simple color palette that is really gorgeous and works beautifully together to create those visual pops and those connective pops that I think are just lovely. So it's beautiful. I just am really in love with the storytelling of the major arcana, the storytelling of the minors, and how you can still access the basic understanding of the cards, excuse me, needing to stretch a little bit, but you have to with Prismavisions, a little bit of stretching as well, which I love. But it's easily accessible to see the basics, but then you have these underlying stories to help connect it all. Okay, I think I've reached the limit of speaking and not having really horrible coughing attacks. But it has been really a joy, an absolute joy to go through this deck and to really see it in its glory and how it all is, what it was trying to do and what I think it really accomplished beautifully. And just being able to walk through those stories has been an absolute joy. And so I appreciate you taking this walk through this deck with me.